The following article is from the Australian Financial Review, June 4th, 2024. Australia is close to reaching a tipping point when it comes to corporate fleet electrification, experts say, but the country still faces a major roadblock to unlocking widespread take-up: a lack of charging stations. While electric vehicles made up less than 1% of total passenger vehicles last year, sales are lifting exponentially in Australia as more affordable models hit the market and the need to decarbonise intensifies. For companies where fleets are critical to operations, the take-up of EVs can significantly aid emissions reductions, reducing ESG risks and helping an organisation meet its corporate sustainability goals. EVs accounted for 8.4% of all new cars sold last financial year, according to the Electric Vehicle Council, up from 0.12% in 2016, 0.65% in 2019 and 3.81% in 2022. Demand for finance has also grown. The Commonwealth Bank reports that business loans for EVs grew 235% year-on-year in 2024, as companies anticipate a shift to EVs or hybrids within 12 months. And given the transport sector made up 19% of Australia's emissions in 2022, according to federal government data, large-scale adoption of EVs offers the private and public sectors a clear path to decarbonisation. Easing range anxiety. The National Electric Vehicle Strategy sits at the heart of the federal government's vision to increase the uptake of EVs and targets 6 key areas for change. These include stricter fuel efficiency and vehicle emission standards, data sharing, EV affordability and fleet procurement. The government has also established the Driving the Nation Fund to invest in EV infrastructure and counter range anxiety. The fund aims to meet ambitious targets that will establish chargers at an average distance of 150 kilometres on major highways and prepare the national electricity grid to support EV uptake.
We were far behind in Australia, but now we're catching up slowly, and that's to do with pressure on business to reduce emissions, but also the policy and market conditions in Australia. The entry of vehicle brands from Asia into the Australian market is also accelerating change as we're getting models that you're not necessarily getting in Europe. So it's starting to balance out.
Stacey Ryan, Policy Manager at ITS Australia, the peak body for advanced transport technology, says federal government changes to fuel standards, expected to come into effect from January next year, will enable the country to catch up to comparable markets by 2028. There will be a point in time when vastly more EVs are in production than ICE internal combustion engine vehicles, which will help us achieve our emissions targets, she says.
EV infrastructure development has followed suit, with public and private investment in car charging sites growing significantly.
The number of public car charging sites in Australia increased by 90% in 2023 and is expected to double again in 2024, according to a report released in January by consulting firm Next System. After a slow start, growth in Australia's public EV fast charger network is clearly accelerating, Next System founder Daniel Bleakley says. Lack of public fast charging infrastructure is often quoted to be a major barrier to electric vehicle uptake in Australia. However, our report shows the EV charging network is actually now growing faster than the Australian EV fleet.
Despite rapid growth, Australia's EV charging network still lags its OECD counterparts, with 4,000 public chargers across Australia as of January 2024, compared to 16,000 in Canada and 53,000 in Britain. While most charging in Australia is expected to occur in private homes, a significant proportion of EV users will be heavily reliant on public chargers. And to service this demand, 27,500 new public EV chargers will be required by 2033, according to Deloitte, representing an 8-fold increase on current public charging capacity. This would mean Australia needs to build on average 8 new public EV chargers every day from now until 2033.
IKEA's Kelly says the furniture giant has a global target of reaching net zero for its home delivery by 2025, up from 40% in Australia in 2023. She says gaining access to charging infrastructure that enables delivery over longer distances will be key, but that even urban areas lack the chargers for light and commercial vehicles. You end up trying to use car spots, which has regulatory implications but is also a public perception issue, Kelly says. There's a lot of complexity there, but we need this infrastructure, not just along highways, but also in inner city areas. IKEA, she says, has started to install its own charging stations at selected warehouses, adding that it is important for companies to take the lead on developing charging if they want to demonstrate change.
Essential Energy, an Australian energy distribution network company, embarked upon a program to electrify its fleet of vehicles that are used in urban and regional areas of NSW and Queensland to enable technicians to maintain the poles and wires that distribute electricity. Michael Mills, Essential Energy's fleet manager, says the decision was largely motivated by financial benefits and sustainability targets.
Data has been key to our decision to electrify our fleets, he says. We broke down all the elements to consider how the transition would impact the business, financially and operationally.
He says that while overcoming charging issues is complicated, the key is careful planning and clear communication. Essential Energy encourages drivers to use apps on their phones that map charging stations and provides detailed information to their drivers on how to plan a journey.
The people driving need to know before they set off where they can charge vehicles and how long it is likely to take. It's been a journey working out logistics, but all the drivers are now starting to adapt, Mills says.
The Australian public, while generally supportive of the shift towards electric vehicles, expresses concerns about the availability and accessibility of charging infrastructure. Many feel that the transition is inevitable, but worry about how it will be managed and whether there will be enough support for those who make the switch early.